Hello, welcome to Shepherd My Heart. Today we are going to talk about Jesus and resurrection. Jesus is the giver of life, not only in the physical sense, but also spiritually, emotionally, and eternally. Throughout the Gospels, we see a consistent and breathtaking truth. When Jesus speaks, life breaks through. The first resurrection that we want to look at is Jairus' daughter. And her father came to Jesus to ask him to heal her. And we're going to be reading in Mark 5, verse 35 and verses 41 through 42. And today I'll be reading from the ESV version. And it says, while he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" How many times has that happened to us? We're believing God for something and it seems like it's dead. But look what happens when Jesus comes on the scene. In verse 41 and 42, it says, taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talita kumai," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age, and they were immediately overcome with amazement. The next resurrection we see is the widow's son in Nain, and this is found in Luke 7, 11 through 15. So soon afterward he went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. As he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearer stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Another resurrection story we see is in Lazarus, in John chapter 11, 43 through 44. And it says, Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha, and he had died, and they were devastated. And it says in verse 43, but when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man that had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." A fourth one we want to look at is the many saints who had fallen asleep. Even as Jesus died on the cross, the earth shook, the graves were opened, and many saints were raised to life. Death simply could not stay in his presence, could not stay still in his presence. And we find this in Matthew 27, 51 through 54. And it says, "And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe and said, 'Truly, this was the Son of God.'" This is what happens with resurrection. When Jesus comes on the scene, it becomes evident that he is the Son of God. Each moment points us to the declaration that Jesus made to Martha in John 11, 23 through 25. It said, Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." And Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. Jesus invites us to live the abundant life. In John 10:10, it says, "A thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Jesus doesn't only offer resurrection at the end of life. He is resurrection life right now. He steps into our moments of hopelessness, of loss, of numbness, and speaks words that awaken what feels dead in us. He invites us to live fully, not just exist. What in your life needs resurrection? A dream, a relationship, your joy, your faith? Jesus is still speaking. Arise, come out, live. Let his words breathe life into your heart today. Has Jesus brought something back to life in your story? Tell us in the comments. It could encourage someone else today. Is there an area in your life that you are asking Jesus to resurrect? Share that in the comments. I'd be honored to pray with you. We have the opportunity for resurrection life. My prayer is that you would know the joy of Jesus speaking to you, of knowing him and knowing his resurrection life.